Welcome to THV11.com. I am joined by Luke Matheson of ArkansasVarsity.com. And Luke, a big week 2 of high school football. Not as many big matches probably week 1 featured, but a lot of good games. A lot of high-scoring games. I know myself, I was at North Little Rock McClellan. 3 touchdowns in under 90 seconds of the game, man. It was kind of one of those crazy games you see. And, I know North Little Rock has had a big week. In fact, we're going to find them in your top 11 poll right now. Let's take a look at that. We start out with number 1, Fayetteville. Obviously, a big win over Bryant. Pretty expected as they came down and took that one. Harbor, of course, runner-up in the 7A last year. They get another big win. Cabot, nice win. We talked about that game. A big test going down to El Dorado, but they get a win. North Little Rock rolls past McClellan. Springdale keeps going along. Of course, in the 6A, you got Greenwood and Jonesboro. Actually, a big win over Conway in the 7A. Little Rock Central, kind of good to see them 2-0. Scooter Register's team looking good. They defeat Bentonville West as they made their first trip to Little Rock. And then you got Pulaski Academy, who went out to Utah. Bryant falls to Fayetteville, of course, and Benton bounces back with their blowout win over Parkview. So I want to talk about Fayetteville first. You know, they come down, they take on Bryant. Not a big surprise to see the score, but what did you see from Taylor Powell, and what do you think about those guys moving forward?
You know, you talk about Taylor Powell, there's one word that comes to mind, that's efficient. He's a guy that's going to protect the football. He's going to move it down the field, got a good arm, and he's got a lot of weapons to utilize as well. And that's the reason he's a Division I prospect that's going to sign with looks like the Demon Deacons on National Signing Day.
He doesn't look like he's going anywhere. He's pretty committed to Wake Forest.
Yeah, he's been recruiting a few other guys to try to go out there with him as well. But you know, Fayetteville, they're really strong right now. I still stick by what I said last week. I probably got a 1A and a 1B versus a number 1 and a number 2.
Harbor right there.
With Harbor, because Harbor's bringing it right now. And you could easily, in my opinion, you could easily flip those two teams, and it would be relevant either way. And
I'm going to cut you off real quick because I want to talk about the Central. You know, you look at 3 and 4. That's got to be really tough. I know you have Cabot at 3. You have North Little Rock at 4. Both look very good. I mean, Cabot, it's 2 wins over 2 6A teams, but you got to think about El Dorado and Pine Bluff. That's probably 2 of the top 3 teams in the 6A that you beat at home, then you go on the road and beat them. Cabot actually had to come back to win that game against El Dorado, but North Little Rock, it's been 2 games, 2 blowouts. And McClellan's no pushover. I mean, I realized they were the runner-up in the 5A, but what made you put Cabot just ahead of North Little Rock?
History, honestly. It's kind of same thing. You could have a 3A, 3B there, and that's going to be settled on the field. And so, you know, generally Cabot has edged out North Little Rock. We'll see if that's the case this year. But really, it deals with Cabot has played the 6A teams, but North Little Rock, yeah, they defeated McClellan like you spoke of, but that's a 5A team.
Right.
What's North Little Rock going to do when they rise up against another 6A, 7A type school? You know, of course, they're going to play Jonesboro. They're going to play Cabot. So that's all going to work itself out on the field.
You look at those athletes in that Cabot North Little Rock game. You know, Alex Day should be back running the football by then for North Little Rock, and then of course Gerard Barnes, the Razorback commit. Man, that's going to be a fun game. And that rivalry, you ask any guy from Cabot, any guy from North Little Rock, who's their biggest rivalry, they'll probably say each other. But as we move down, I want to talk about Jonesboro as well. Big win over Conway. Kevin Conway, obviously, out of the 7A. And we spoke about this last week. Jonesboro thinks after all those semifinal appearances, this could be the year. So how big of a win is it that they actually beat Conway, a huge win, and now they're coming down to Central Arkansas. They play Central on Friday.
Yeah, that was a big win for them. I mean, number 1, they knocked off a 7A team, and they didn't just knock off a 7A team. Conway's one of them teams that will compete year in and year out. And so to go to Conway and to beat Conway, phenomenal win for them. And as we stated, if there's a year that they're going to make it, this is the year. They've definitely started off on the right foot.
Now, I know we talked about Greenwood a little bit as well. Obviously, a disappointing loss in the 6A state title game last year to Pine Bluff. Can you see them sort of working their way back up towards the top of the 6A? I mean, you can never count them out, especially with the athletes that the Bulldogs have. But can they make a run, maybe even go undefeated in the 6A and make a push to get back to War Memorial and maybe win it?
I think that this is Greenwood's year probably. I've got them number 1 in my 6A rankings. And you know, they're like you said, they're loaded. You got two quarterbacks that could go to nearly any college that they want to. They're quote unquote backup quarterbacks committed to an SEC school, and so Greenwood is loaded with talent. And I tell you what, a Greenwood and Jonesboro state championship game wouldn't be a bad one to watch.
You just look at that 6A, man, and it's just round and round we go. Pine Bluff, Greenwood, and Jonesboro. I know you look at those matchups, and of course Benton right there too. They get a bounce back win over Parkview. You got to think that made them feel good to put a lot of points up. I realize Parkview's having a down year right now, but after not being able to score really at all nearly against Bryant, to put up 62 points against Parkview, get Brad Harris and his offense going, you think that game's got to be a confidence booster for Benton?
Yeah, you know, you're non-conference. We're going into week 3 last week of non-conference play, so it's going to get real quick for Benton once they get into the conference play. Same thing for Pine Bluff, same thing for El Dorado, anybody else in 6A. And so, you know, got one more week to make sure you got everything dialed in and ready to go, and then next week, week 4, we go into conference play. That's when it gets real fun.
And I wanted to go down to the lower classifications a little bit. You know, it was a big game Friday night, and it was England taking on Junction City. What did you make of that ball game? What were your impressions of it? And how is that going to really stretch out moving into the, I guess, week 3, week 4, once they do hit conference play?
You know, I said it last week that England showed more physicality in week 1 than I saw last year. Turn around week 2, they go down and they handle their business against Junction City.
And that doesn't happen often.
No, it doesn't. And Junction City's a team that I think will compete for the Class 3A state title this year. 3A is kind of weird this year.
Kind of a strange
year.
So,
you got Glen Rose #1 in my ranking, and they're doing well right now. And but Junction City's still a top 5 team. But for England to go to Junction City and handle their business down there, that speaks a lot, and we're going to see how England does. Again, talking about conference play, they're in a conference where they're probably going to win their conference championship, and it's going to set up nice for them come playoff time.
Well, we'll see what the Lions do when they hit the playoffs. And the last game I want to talk to you about is the one you were actually at Friday night. CAC Robinson, that high-powered offense. Robinson keeps getting the ball. They keep moving the ball. Coylan Jackson, Nathan Page, these guys are all over the place. And I know they've got Arkansas Baptist. It looks like a pretty good win. They should take care of business against Arkansas Baptist, you know, right down the road on Highway 10. But how deep can Robinson go? I mean, we see the flashes, we see the hype. They've yet to really make that transition in the playoffs yet. Can they do it this year?
We're going to find out real quick. Again, we talk about conference play. They are in what I consider the toughest conference, not only in Class 4A.
There's a lot of D1 talent there.
But that conference may be the toughest conference in the state, regardless of classification. Robinson looked phenomenal Friday night, and they got a lot of talent. Of course, you got Coylan that's going to Arkansas. Nathan Page may be the #1 underclassman in the state right now. If I had to make an underclassman list, he would be #1 on that list. But phenomenal player. Saw him rise up at a 7-on-7 last summer, and was the best player on the field then. And so Robinson is loaded with talent. They got a team that will push for a state championship this year. But again, in that conference, you have Arkadelphia, you have Nashville, you know, you have all those teams like that, and so Ashdown as well. Ooh. And you could easily make those 4 teams your top 4 teams in Class 4A. But then you also got a team called the Warren Lumberjacks that's sitting at #2 right now.
Bo Hembry may have something to say about all this discussion.
If there's ever a team in 4A you never count out, is Bo Hembry and those Warren Lumberjacks, because they'll pop up on you before you know it.
Trial by fire in the 4A. Luke, thank you so much for joining us. Be sure to check out Luke on ArkansasVarsity.com. He has got his rankings not only for the top 11 in the state, but also top 11 in every single classification. If you want high school football, check this guy out right here. Luke, can't thank you enough, man. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
And remember to come back always on THV11.com.